In today's video, I want to talk about how I was able to level up financially. And if you are a person after my very own heart, then like myself, you probably desire financial freedom and the ability to be able to travel the world and not work if you have to be able to make life easy for those around you, and to be able to drive a nice car and go to really nice restaurants because you can and you have the means to do so. If you haven't met me before, my name is Uyiosa. I'm a medical doctor working in London. I went from being a struggling, broke medical student to being a doctor who has invested thousands of pounds in property and in stocks. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you key principles that I've learned that has helped me personally level up financially, and hopefully it does the same for you. First principle I learned is optimizing for the most value at all times. Time is a limiting factor. We only have 24 hours in a day, so you can't work more than 24 hours. And I learned very quickly that because time is a limiting factor, it's not necessarily about how hard you work, but it's about how much value you're able to create in the time that you do work. When you look at people who hold masterclasses, and a popular one that I tend to see on my TikTok are makeup masterclasses, where you can pay in person to attend the masterclass by the MUA, but if you can't attend physically, they will live stream it and they might charge a slightly lower amount for you to watch a live stream at home. Now, if we think about the person who is hosting the masterclass may only be 5 hours long, but they've actually generated 2 ways of making income. They have made income from the people who have physically attended, but they've also made money from the people who have watched from the comfort of their home for the duration of that 5 hours. And so when it comes to making money, it's not necessarily about how many hours you work, but it's about how much money you can actually extract from the amount of hours that you have put into the work or activity that you're doing. Now, the second half of this coin is linked directly to input and output, and I'm going to use myself as an example. So when I was a student and I would tutor, I was paid an hourly wage, and at first I would try and optimize and increase the amount of hours that I worked, but then I realized very quickly that time is a limiting factor, and regardless of how many hours I would do tutoring, there will be a ceiling that I will reach in terms of how much I earn. So the second thing I then learned was actually if I increase my hourly rate by upskilling myself and looking for companies that pay a higher rate, even if I work the same amount of hours, I could earn double what I was previously making. If you have a job where your hourly rate is directly proportional to how much you take home, by upskilling yourself, by changing organization, you could earn more per hour. The second thing that I learned is you cannot save your way to wealth. And I can only speak for myself. I didn't grow up in wealth, and I actually have experienced what it means to be broke. And so because of those experiences, for a number of years, I had a scarcity mindset, and I found so much comfort in knowing that I had a pot of money saved up left in my bank account. But what I didn't understand at the time is there is something called inflation. And inflation, simply put, is the increase in the price of an item over time. And we are experiencing it now. I am a sweet tooth, which is a bit cheeky considering that I'm a doctor. However, I've noticed that back in the day when I was in uni, I could buy a packet of squashies for £1. And now a packet of squashies is like £1.50 to £1.75. And the amount of squashies you get is a lot less. And that is the impact of inflation. And when you keep your money in your bank account over time, how much stuff you can actually buy with that pot of money becomes less and less. And the reason why investing is great is because when you put your money into an asset, which is something that generates you money, you are earning money from the money that you've put in. I hope that makes sense. And that is the best way to hedge against inflation and to keep the value of the amount of money that you had to start off with. And it also links nicely to my first point, because when you put your money in something that generates money on its own accord, examples of this are stocks. Stocks will increase in value as the company does well. You are earning money regardless of what you do with your time. The third principle that I learned is there are 2 types of debt, and you need to choose wisely which one you want to utilize. There's good debt debt and there's bad debt. Good debt for me is when you've borrowed money, you're paying interest on that money, but you've put that money into something that can make you money. Property. People will take out mortgages on their property, but they are also making money from that property by renting it out. Whereas on the flip side, with bad debt, it's just debt that you've accumulated that you're paying high interest on, but the thing that you've actually used the debt to buy isn't making you any money. And because of that, when I was in university, I didn't have any overdraft facilities. Very strict with myself, and I said, well, if I don't have the money to do something, it just means that I can't afford it. And just because I can't afford it right now doesn't mean I won't be able to afford it in the future. And I guess that concept is also linked to delayed gratification. The fourth principle is understanding what value-based spending means to you. If you have a conversation with multiple people, everyone will have different views on what you should spend money on and what you shouldn't spend money on. And I learned very quickly that there are things that I personally prioritize that other people may not prioritize. An example of this is holidays over items. I feel comfortable spending money on holidays because in my head, those memories are priceless, and the upside of being in a completely different space, being exposed to a completely different culture, having conversations with people that you haven't met before can really change your mindset compared to having a new bag or a new pair of shoes. And again, I'm not saying that having a new bag or a pair of shoes is bad, because again, I am a heel girly. If you know, you know. But I am saying that working out what is valuable to you is key to knowing where you put your money. And the last principle is don't be afraid to bet on yourself and to invest in yourself. When it came to changing my understanding of money and building my financial literacy, the first thing that I did was A, acknowledge where I was, B, understand what my attitudes were towards money and where they stemmed from, and then C, identifying what my actual goals were, and then thinking about the different strategies that I could implement that would help me get there. Before you invest, because you can lose a lot of money, again, been there, done that. The key thing is investing in your knowledge. There are so many resources out there that you can utilize. For me personally, I read a ton of books, and one thing that I made sure to do was write what my learnings were in the book and to actually execute. I think that's the key thing. Sometimes we read books or we listen to podcasts or we go on courses and we accumulate a wealth of knowledge, but we don't execute. And that's the difference between the people who are able to build a life of financial freedom and people who don't. What I'm going to do is link in the description box all the books that I read, and I've also created videos in relation to this that I will link here. I'm not sure, but look out to either side of the screen. But that brings me to the end of this video. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, definitely comment them and I will be sure to reply, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!